said last week, we were at the National Football Museum, and we've got some of the winners with us today. So we'll go through in the order that we announced the awards last week, which started with the Technical Officer of the Year. So our winner was Simon Waller from Middlesbrough Staying Put. So first of all, congratulations, Simon.
Thanks, Paul.
I think looking at your, I don't know if I suppose one thing I'm never sure whether nominees actually see the application form that people have submitted about them. But perhaps I thought for you, I'd just read out the summary, which was, with 20 years of experience in this sector, I can say without any equivocation and in all sincerity, if myself and my family required the assistance of a HIA, Simon is the technical officer I'd want to be coming to my door. He simply will not be beat.
That's lovely. There you go. Always be prepared and have your phone as a technical officer ready to pounce into action. But no, that was it's a lovely comment to receive, and to be honest with you, Paul, I was just blown away to be nominated, let alone sort of shortlisted and to win the award. That's kind of why we come to work, is because we're passionate about the job that we do. I think I said when I was up on stage, it's more of a vocation, as opposed to, and a calling. So that's why we come to work generally, is to make a difference. And I was just blown away to actually win.
So how long have you been working for Middlesbrough Staying Put, Simon?
For Middlesbrough since 2016.
Yeah.
I've worked in local government. I was a trainee engineer for Cleveland County back in the day, for those of the audience that are old enough to remember Cleveland County, and prior to local government reorganisation, and kind of got into a technical field through like a highway design, and graduated as a civil engineer, and actually I'm a chartered civil engineer. But then found my way into what I was really passionate about, which is just making a difference really for individuals and their families who might be struggling. And I was just so lucky and so privileged to find, the job that I absolutely love doing on a daily basis at Middlesbrough, and working as part of a fantastic team, I've got to say. So the award wasn't really about me. I always love to receive that individual accolation, but I very much regard it as a reflection on the team as a whole. We're a good team. I think we work well together, and that includes not just from a technical aspect, but the caseworkers, the admin team, the handy person service, the occupational therapists, the contractors, the housing. Everyone really does pull together, Paul.
Yeah, I think Middlesbrough are regulars at the awards, and usually come away with the trophy. So this year obviously being no exception. So there was one case in particular that was highlighted as part of the nomination. So it's kind of Miss C, severely disabled young lady with complex needs. Can you tell us a bit about that case, Simon, and what your role was in it?
That's really difficult to think exactly what case it was, because when we knock out over 300 jobs a year. But I think that the one possibly that you're referring to is it was a lovely case of a mother and daughter, where we'd helped the daughter by way of doing a lot of adaptations in a property that mum had purchased for her. So we were working almost with an empty shell. But as part of that, we worked very closely with mum to meet the needs of her daughter through a level access shower. Sorry, that one wasn't a level access shower. It was a specialist bath with a self-cleaning toilet that we put in. We had to make due allowance of some hoists and a level access front door, with the specialist design of the ramp to the side of the property that we actually hid through the design process. So that was one of the features actually in one of the other awards, about good design and how you can bring that into someone's home almost to make it invisible.
Yeah.
We work very closely with one of our ramping partners to provide a temporary ramp as well, through an initiative that we've got through recycling apparatus, to try and help us in a short period of time. So we also provided some facilities for the carers that was a private element of the job. So it was very much a bespoke design that included different elements for the customer that we had, including sort of a height adjustable wash hand basin, just in order that the daughter could get the wheelchair underneath, with some special long reach lever taps. So there were lots of different elements to the design that was quite complex, to the point that the soffit of the roof in the bathroom, we ended up with about a 25mm gap between the top of the carer's shower door and the soffit of the ceiling. So we really did have to, design it to the millimeter. So it was a fantastic job that comprised different elements over a long period of time to get all of the contractors to deliver their piece of the work. So it lasted about 9 to 10 months, I think, from start to finish to deliver, but it was very rewarding, and it was just a lovely family to work with.
It kind of mentioned in the nomination, kind of local jobs, as whoever wrote it had put it. So it sounded like it was a fairly challenging environment as well.
Yeah, it was, to be fair, Paul. The family unfortunately were victims of some antisocial behaviour that was targeted at the daughter, and from recollection, they were actually the estate itself on Teesside was featured in one of the documentaries that hit, I think it was Panorama, a year and a half, 2 years ago. There was mayoral involvement as well. The antisocial behaviour team helped out, but Mum decided that the best thing for the family was to kind of move the daughter out of the area, because she was getting, targeted abuse over a long period of time. So we worked carefully with the family to sort of manage that move and expectations as well. And hopefully we achieved a good outcome for the family that we're still in contact with anyway, and we continue to offer that support. We're not going anywhere fast. We're still available if there's anything that we can help with.
Yeah, I think that's good. Sometimes you can go back and see the difference you've made, because sometimes you kind of move on to the next case and don't necessarily see the impact. But it sounds like in this case you kind of got to see that that difference that's been made.
Yeah, we did, definitely. And as I said there, the family is still in contact. They know where we are, and certainly Mum isn't backwards in coming forwards and picking the phone up.
Okay. And kind of one of the other bits that was picked out in your nomination was around your kind of building very strong relationships with OTs and that kind of ongoing interdepartmental kind of partnership working, which is obviously very key for the sort of case you've just mentioned. So how do you kind of find working with OTs and kind of how have you kind of fostered those good relationships?
I love it. The OTs are a great bunch. We're very, very fortunate in Middlesbrough that we work sort of hand in glove with them all. We work from the same building. We were sharing the same office, and it's really, really good for that cross-pollination of ideas, picking up on conversations, and also some of the messages that you can only get through talking to some people sort of face to face, as it were, rather than over the phone. Every day's a school day. There is opportunity there to learn from each other, and it cuts both ways, to the point that some of the occupational therapists in the referral forms are really, really helping provide some good quality information that helps me do my job, and hopefully I can likewise learn from them, so that at the end of the day I can provide better solutions to some of the needs that they're requiring me to meet for their clients. So it is, as well as working with the occupational therapists, we also try our best to work with the many housing associations, for example, that we have in Middlesbrough. That's through good experience, keeping colleagues and stakeholders well informed. I'm a keen advocate of good communication in terms of picking the phone up, speaking to people, families, carers, housing associations, contractors, so that everyone knows what's going to happen, what the plans are, but also the fact that if things go wrong, as they sometimes do, then we are there and we can adapt to changing circumstances, provided we keep people on board, on side with us, we let them know what's going on, and also follow up afterwards.
Yeah.
So we're hopefully, by speaking regularly to different stakeholders and building those relationships up over time, because it's at the end of the day, it's the old saying that, you know, it's people that make the things happen, not the processes necessarily. So that's really important for me and the team as well, Paul.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I mean, I think when we kind of look around the country and kind of particularly people who came to the awards last week, it's so much about kind of relationships and getting on with other people and building those partnerships, isn't it? Much more so.
It is, and I was going to say that a key part of our role as technical officers, certainly in Middlesbrough, is it's making sure that every contact matters. The fact that we're not just there to do a technical role, we'll liaise with families, we'll also pick up on other things while we're in people's homes, and we'll signpost people. You know, we might pick up on hoarding issues or refer on to our caseworkers for the winter warmth campaigns that we're running. We pick up on issues maybe of isolation, of social isolation, maybe refer on for, you know, the Rekindle project, and the, you know, that was mentioned at the that was commended at the awards, in fact. So we've got lots of different opportunities for that point of contact and working with other agencies and different parts of the council as well, to refer people on, so that people get the maximum benefit for every single contact that we make with them, Paul.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks for joining us today, Simon, and congratulations again on being Technical Officer of the Year. Very, very well.
Thank you very much. Cheers. Happy Christmas, everyone.
Thank you, and to you. Thank you, Simon. Right. Next award was the Handy Person Service of the Year. City of York Council's Falls Prevention Service, and Anne's with us here this afternoon to tell us about what's happening in York. So first of all, congratulations, Anne.
Thank you.
So I think kind of looking at the submission, so it kind of started as kind of a small scheme and then kind of grew. So can you give us kind of a history of kind of why it started? I guess kind of how you managed to grow it, because a lot of kind of pilot schemes then
yeah,
they do. By the wayside, don't they? So
can't take all the praise for that, Paul. I'm afraid. I think it was probably in the right place or the wrong place at the right time. So yeah, the scheme started as falls prevention in York in 2017 as a pilot further to building research establishment survey that was commissioned by York Council. And one of the impacts on health and well-being for people in the area was the impact of falls in the property type, and also cold and empty homes. Obviously, I'm here to talk about falls. So at that point, the Falls Prevention Service was set up as a pilot in the Clifton area of York, where the risk of falls was found to be the highest among the demographic and the property type. Handy Person, as it was, didn't exist within the council at that point. That was commissioned out to Yorkshire Housing. So the Falls Prevention Service was set up and gradually spread out for very specific self-referral into the service, or referral through Age UK, just to kind of steady how much came in, be able to monitor the rate of stuff that comes into falls prevention at that point. So that spread out gradually to a couple more wards, I think up to 5 wards in York. And then in 2019, the handy person service that was at the time commissioned to Yorkshire Housing was brought in to sit alongside falls prevention under that umbrella term of prevention services. And I came into the service so that all this was happening at the same time as COVID. And at this point, I wasn't working in the service, I was working in adult social care, but always offered sort of like long arm support to practitioners, any sort of clinical questions, as it was very new. So always sort of offered that kind of support, wanting to get my hands on things. And yes, then the job of senior officer came up to sort of bring the two handy person service and falls prevention neatly under that early intervention prevention umbrella. And I came into the service in 2021. And yeah, that's what we've been doing. It was spread out citywide since then, because it was a little bit confusing as to who could self-refer, which were the best ways to refer. And we said, go on, let's give it a go. Let's have a go, spread it citywide. And what we found was we've been able to sort of almost control, because we're still a young service, referrals coming into us in a way through self-referral by our leafleting and by our marketing. So if we kind of feel like we're getting a bit of a rush, we sit back, we put a bit of a stop on it, and we're still getting referrals in, because we've done so much working more widely with partners into the service to sort of obviously to keep busy, really. Yeah, the bit that I didn't touch on is how much we've grown in terms of staffing. So we have 1.5 joiners in the service. Ideally, we'd have 2 full-time, but we just haven't recruited to the other half of the joiner just yet. And we have the equivalent of 3 full-time falls prevention practitioners and myself as senior officer. So that kind of supports the service. Me, because I'm an OT by background. We're not a therapy service, and we don't want to be advertising ourselves as a therapy service. We're very much have this housing view on things in terms of falls prevention, making properties safe for people to live in safely now and into the longer term. If there's short-term quick fixes as your grab rails and your handrails, and similar to Simon there, if we can signpost people on for grants for heating or disabled facilities grants, if it's beyond our remit for bigger adaptations, then that's what we do. So yeah, we've grown in terms of where we reach and our staffing as well.
Yeah. So what are your kind of top 3 or 4 jobs that you do for people? Presume kind of lots of grab rails and handrails.
Yes, yeah, lots of grab rails and handrails. So stair rails, I would say we're seeing more and more stair rails, and I'm really keen for people and to empower the practitioners and the joiners, and for people really referring in to feel that it's okay to put a stair rail in and not go to that jumping onto a stair lift. If somebody says, oh, I need a stair lift, well, actually no, we if that is the approach and you don't feel that the person really does need a stair lift, we then work with our partners in physio. We work with the partners, the links that we've made in the wider community, in keeping people active and any classes that they can get into in terms of activity, social providers, local area coordinators, if we think there's a confidence thing there as well, and not feeling that you've got to go to put in an adaptation in straight away. And I think that's the beauty of the services, that we can get in quick, we can put a stair rail in, and if ultimately it looks like it is going to be a bigger adaptation, we've bought a bit of time, we've given that person a quick, within 14 days that stair rail is in, and you've got a practitioner there to encourage you, to empower you, to feel that you can be safe being active in your own home. So yes, stair rails, grab rails to access points, and rails in bath areas. We also are able to order smaller pieces of equipment through Be Independent, the equipment store. So anything that works in conjunction with those minor adaptations, we'll get them in, and do everything all at once, as best we can, to avoid somebody being passed from one waiting list to another. So if we've been able to upskill our workers, our staff at an appropriate level, so you're not going out of your remit, you're not going out of your comfort zone, and and you're not doing any assessments that you shouldn't be doing, proportionate, that's what we do. And that's how I think the lovely thing about having the handy person, your typical, your joiners doing your typical handy person jobs, sitting alongside our practitioners. We come together on a month, we say, oh, we've seen this person on handy person, what do you reckon? I think they just need a little bit of extra support from a practitioner to go in under that falls prevention remit, and just give them that bit of support. And we pass cases between ourselves, chew the fat over things, and one thing that we've been really keen to promote is that team ethos, and people working together. And I think that's what we do really well.
So so in terms of commissioners, that they're presumably kind of very happy with the work you're doing. Are you starting to kind of see a reduction in falls and kind of an impact on?
To be honest, we haven't done any. We've not got any feedback. I was just at a recent meeting about falls mapping with the local area commissioners in the Better Care Fund and the ICBs around where we can get the data about people presenting to an A&E having a fall. It's very difficult to get where the fall has occurred. It goes, you go into A&E with having had a fall, never sure inside, outside the property. So for example, we had a referral that came to us, had a fall on the stairs. Sorry, just sort of digressing by the and we're like, oh, we need to get out there pretty quickly. And it turns out actually it was on some concrete stone steps, up about 20 steps, very lucky person at their daughter's house. And at home, they don't climb the stairs, but that information hadn't kind of been tweaked and found. So yes, like I say, we're still working with our, so I work closely with the Falls and Frailty lead in the NHS, and like I say, attending the Better Care Fund meetings and recent falls and frailty events to try and do that finer mapping to find out where falls are occurring. And one of the things we are looking to do into the new year, one of our goals is around outcome measures and things. So how we can measure beginning before we go in, and when we leave, the outcome measures in terms of falls anxiety particularly, because I think that has such a big impact on your well-being and also your activity levels and being to partake in all the things that you want to do. And I think it was interesting when you put your frailty scale on social media, sort of trying to let people see that frailty isn't an inevitable element of aging, and that's always something that we want to promote. So
yeah, I think kind of for anybody who's watching who wasn't aware of that, there was kind of a discussion over on the Facebook group around kind of the level of frailty that people generally start to provide adaptations at, and it was quite a broad spread. I was looking at it this morning, kind of from very kind of early prevention through to people who are kind of relatively frail. It was kind of the starting point at various different areas, and I guess it sounds like kind of York have decided that kind of prevention is far better than cure. And
yeah, and I think it's really good timing for us in terms of, sorry, excuse me, I got a bit of a croak. That investment in prevention, and yeah, that's what we're always keen to promote. Is prevention is better than cure, isn't it? If we're doing a small bit towards that, I think we're increasingly in the service have seen, in terms of your frailty scale, quite a broad spectrum really, because there are people, one of the things is we'll say the people who we typically see won't necessarily have seen an OT or a physio, but more coming out of COVID and lockdown, less people have necessarily seen these people, have tried to do things themselves and are now at the point where they kind of want to find out a bit more about what they're eligible for, and people will come to us and they'll say, they might actually be very frail, and they're I didn't know this service existed. And we talk to people about other things that they could be signposted onto or supported into in terms of groups and things in the community, or even OTs in terms of major adaptations. And people say, I didn't know that these things existed, and that's quite it's good to be able to point people in the right direction and feel that you're doing something.
Well, it was really good to be able to reward the hard work that's gone on in York, Anne, and
Thank you.
congratulations to you and the team. Hopefully, and I suppose it'd be good to find out how the award helps you in future as well, because I always kind of found that definitely kind of raises the profile of the service having won an award.
Yeah.
So hopefully that helps you to continue to go from strength to strength.
Thank you, Paul. Thanks very
Great.
much.
Thanks, Anne. So our next award was Housing OT of the Year. So winner of Housing OT of the Year was Neil Widmore from Gloucestershire. Hi, Neil. I'm not
Hi.
sure if your signal's any better.
Let me try. I'm having problems. My video's turned off, guys, because
Okay.
I'm having some technical issues. But is that?
We-
Can you see me? Okay.
Yeah, I think that's working. We could hear
Okay.
hear you loud and clear then. So
Oh,
yeah, hopefully
good.
that's done the trick. So
Good.
thanks for joining us, and congratulations on being Housing OT of the Year.
Thank you.
And I think it was kind of a first for the National Healthy Housing Awards in that you were nominated twice by different people. So
Oh,
that was
thank you.
you could almost won it twice. So I think there were kind of a couple of bits in particular that they kind of picked out. So the first one was if you could tell us a bit about the kind of register of adapted housing and kind of how you're working with the districts to develop that. As a
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Well, first of all, just to say I'm delighted and privileged to win the award. Thank you. Especially given the dedication, hard work, and skill of some of the other co-nominees, and special mention to Julie, who I think is from Oxford, on her commendation. The Accessible Housing Register is actually not a register at all, Paul. It's a system of categorization for the accessibility of dwellings. So it's shamelessly stolen from the London model. We've got consent from the Greater London Authority to use it in Gloucestershire, and I guess the challenge at the moment is persuading our sort of larger social housing providers to go out and survey the properties. So essentially, it works by categorizing them A through to G.
Yeah.
A would be fully wheelchair accessible. B, partially wheelchair accessible. C would be the old Lifetime Homes standard, and then moving on down to F, which is more than 4 steps or a ramp steeper than 1 in 10. So the idea is that we can hopefully advertise those categories when the property becomes void on our choice-based letting system. So to give disabled people a choice, because I would argue that at the moment we're not doing that. We might have information about whether it's adapted, we might have information about whether it's a bungalow, but in fact, it's not until, for example, a wheelchair user arrives at the front door that they discover that they can't get through the door, they can't get down the hallway, they can't turn around in the kitchen or the bathroom. So this is to try and give some real detail to that.
Yeah, and do you think is it looking hopeful that local authorities and housing associations will
So what we've done is we've got 28 different housing providers in Gloucestershire, which gives you an idea of the scale of the issue. I've targeted the main ones, so those are the housing providers that have mostly purchased the stock from the local district councils. I think I've probably got about 2 out of 5 at the moment. The others haven't said no. There are issues to do with them upgrading asset management systems and not being able to upload the categories as yet. But I think the major concern has always been the time taken to go out and survey the properties. And the message I'm trying to give people is that actually it doesn't need to be hugely time consuming. It's often something that can be done as a desktop exercise for at least probably half their properties if they have a good knowledge of their corporate stock. And actually the form doesn't have to be filled in full for each property. It really is only those A and B categories where the massive detail is required on the form. So I'll keep being persistent, and it's certainly resilience is something that I've discovered I need in this role.
Yes, I think so. I mean, there are so many housing association properties on there that are adapted, and then the adaptations are ripped out when the tenancy changes. So, if I mean, from a sustainable point of view, from a value for money point of view, and from having accessible stock that's available for people with a disability, it just makes so much sense, doesn't it?
Absolutely, absolutely. We're seeing sort of extensions costing up to 100, even 120,000 pounds per property. So that becomes a very precious resource, I think,
Yeah.
given the lack of the lack of accessible housing nationally, and it's really important that we can identify those properties and make sure they're let effectively. And I guess this is the first step on that road.
Yes, yes. I mean, I'm not quite sure how successful it was in London at the end of the day, but I think perhaps if you're kind of taking their learning, then that's
Yeah,
kind of valuable in terms of something that's obviously had a lot of work gone into it in the past, and
there've been some reviews, Paul, of the London model,
Hmm.
independent reviews, and one of the boroughs found that they were letting half of their wheelchair properties to non-wheelchair users, and the Accessible Housing Register had a very powerful role in changing that and switching it around so that all of their properties were let to wheelchair users after that.
Excellent, excellent. Well,
Yeah.
I think that's something we'll definitely be catching up with you on and see how that progresses.
Thank you.
And then the other key piece of work that was noted in both nominations was around kind of fast track DFGs for people with rapidly deteriorating conditions. So it's things like MND. So give us kind of a little more detail about how that works and
Yeah, sure.
how that's
Yeah.
progressing.
I work in a two-tier authority, so we've got 6 district councils. We meet at a meeting called the DFG Forum, where the 6 districts and the county council and the ICB get together. It was actually a case that was brought by a district council grants officer of a gentleman who had been diagnosed with motor neuron disease, and um, because of their financial circumstances, they were not able to access the grant. It's also something that noted is in the DFG Good Practice Guide as a suggested service improvement, and it's also been talked about by the MND Association for as long as I've been in practice, frankly. So what we wanted to do was have a policy that enabled people, perhaps while they were still in work, where we know that the condition is likely to become rapidly progressive or highly debilitating, that we don't waste time waiting for them to stop working before we're able to access the grant system. So for patients who are clinically assessed as having either a rapidly progressive or highly debilitating, or indeed a palliative condition where adaptation remains appropriate, we are still using the means test, but where somebody might be failing it or have a significant contribution, we're offering a grant of up to £15,000 so that we can press on with things like level access showers, wash dry toilets, and ramping, etc. Because actually these people need those adaptations yesterday.
Hmm.
So yeah, it's been quite successful actually. We're seeing more and more patients coming through that, and I hope to be able to share some case studies with you in the future.
Yeah, that'd be excellent. So in terms of, I think one of the tricky bits is kind of defining who would be eligible for that kind of service. Did you have kind of fairly flexible definition or kind of eligibility in terms of condition?
So we were keen not to be too restrictive.
Yeah.
We were keen to, but equally, it needed to be people who were truly um, having these really challenging conditions. So the way it works is that the OT will make an assessment and make a decision about whether they think they might qualify on those 3 grounds that I mentioned just now. They then have to seek clinical approval from their senior supervisor. Who may or may not ring me, but we do try and keep to those criteria because there is a concern about, there's quite a few people who don't qualify financially, who we'd love to help.
Yeah.
I would just mention that Gloucestershire has got another great policy where we are currently paying people's contributions up to £10,000 discretionarily, which again really helps with those cases where we know people are financially struggling but perhaps aren't just eligible for the grant.
Yeah. In terms of the districts across Gloucestershire, does that happen across all districts? Has everybody kind of signed up to that as an approach?
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah, it is challenging, Paul. Having effectively 8 different kind of organisations in
Mm.
one meeting does make it difficult. But I think kind of vigorous debate is often helpful in getting policies right. It means that I think where we can tolerate disagreements, we actually end up with a better outcome.
Yeah.
But yes, at the moment, all 6 are signed up to that one.
Yeah. And I understand that there is some kind of flexibility with the Better Care Fund and funding of DFGs across Gloucestershire, so that must help in terms of some of these exceptional cases as well.
Yeah, so we've discussed and agreed a policy whereby the districts can go up to around 60 or 70,000 pounds before having to come back to forum and discuss cases, because we are finding that extensions are so expensive that the cost of building works is going up. So we've got a good process, I think, for complex cases and how we approve them.
So what's next, Neil? Have you got any other things that you're kind of keen to address and develop over the next 12 to 24 months?
Yeah, so I think it's continuing to work on the DFG program improvement. I work with a wonderful team in the ICB and at the County Council. We have a sort of DFG hub. My colleagues Abbas Feshmir and Neil Penny. So looking forward to working with our districts more next year, looking at their processes, seeing if there's ways in which we can lean the process and deliver adaptations more quickly. I think that's one of the biggest challenges of the DFG that we'd love to be able to enable people to have those barriers removed faster. The accessible housing register is going to be a big one as well. So we're hoping to get those categories onto our choice-based letting system by April next year, and very much continue to work with all the housing providers in Gloucestershire to encourage them to join us, because we think it's an important step.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, congratulations, Neil, on being Cays and Go Tea of the Year, and yeah, it's certainly a foundation. We'll be very much following those projects, and yeah, looking forward to see how they develop.
Thanks very much, Paul.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Neil. So our next category is DFG Adaptation Service of the Year. And the winners were counted. So Becky Walker from Oxford, who's the HIA manager, is with us this afternoon. So congratulations, Becky. I know you're not, it wasn't your first award show, but must be good to win the DFG Adaptation Service.
Yeah, we're very happy because last time we won it was in COVID, and it was a virtual ceremony, and when we got the award we all got kicked off the Zoom meeting because it didn't work very well, so it was actually quite nice to have it in person this time.
Yes, it's a lot better in person, isn't it? So in terms of your entry, it seems that you work very closely with your BCF colleagues on developing DFG policy, I suppose similar to what I've just heard from Gloucestershire.
Yeah, we work with them as well. So we've met with them when we started developing our RRO policy, but we've been keeping in touch ever since then, because that was quite a few years ago now, just to make sure that what we're doing with our RRO policy and all the changes that we're making is still meeting their needs. And we go to their planning sessions each year as well to see what they're doing with their funds and what they want us to address.
Yeah, so what do you think are the key things around your adaptation service then that makes a difference?
Well, needs-wise, in Oxfordshire, it's particularly around falls, because we've got very high fall rate compared to the rest of the country, so that's a real issue, and also getting people out of hospital. But I think the the main reason our service is different is one of the OTs summed it up quite well. Is they said that we're a service that likes to say yes rather than finds ways to say no. So we're always sort of looking at ways that we can actually get round problems and try and resolve things for people. So we've made our grants policies very, very broad. And we tell the occupational therapists and all the hospital people and everybody else that we work with not to worry about saying, I want to apply for this specific grant and this particular assistance, but come to us with problems. And then we will take them on and work with the client to see where's the best way of actually resolving those.
And you do quite a lot of marketing, which can be quite unusual for DFG teams, but you do all sorts of marketing, don't you? Yeah,
we do loads. I've got a brilliant lady called Michelle, who I think is on the call today, and she's really, really good at marketing. So she's helped design all our leaflets, and that's her specific role, is to go around and market our service. Because even though there's a lot of clients and we're always really busy and everything else, but there's always people out there that we want to find out about our service. And it always amazes me when we go to different events and people say, oh, wow, this is a fantastic service, but I've never heard of you. Why didn't I know about it? So we do try and promote it as much as possible, and also try and look at where there are gaps in our service and try and promote it there as well.
I think sometimes people are worried if they kind of promote a DFG or a home improvement agency service, they'll kind of get overwhelmed with people kind of rushing for the service. But presumably you haven't been overwhelmed, and you've been getting to the right people by the sound of it.
No, it definitely, when we first started doing it, it increased the number of referrals we had, but we planned for that, so we made sure that we had the staffing in place to be able to cope with it. And no, we're definitely not overwhelmed, but we are getting more of the right sort of people, the people that really in need and don't access services and don't come and ask for help. And that's the people that we wanted to try and promote it to, really. So we're really pleased.
And you've been working with private landlords as well to improve access to the private rented sector.
If it's in Oxford City, we've got a selective licensing scheme, which means that all landlords have to be now registered and go through a series of checks before they're able to be registered. So we worked with our teams that are working with licensing all the landlords, and went and did talks to them to tell people about the DFG process and how people access it. And we also set up a specific landlord leaflet as well, because a lot of landlords were really worried that they would be means tested, and they would have to organise the works themselves and everything else. So we just explained that it wasn't them that gets means tested. We have a non-means tested grant up to 10,000, but anything above that, it's the client that gets means tested, not the landlord. And we do all the hard work for them. They don't have to do anything apart from give us permission.
Which can be difficult sometimes, can't it? But is your kind of proactive working with landlords meant that's been getting easier?
It's definitely getting easier. I wouldn't say it's brilliant. But I think that's a national thing that people having struggled, not only with private landlords, but with housing associations as well. That's a real issue, getting permission from them. But it's something that's definitely improved since we've put those in place.
And so you're also expanding into kind of two of the other districts. What kind of challenges and opportunities do you think that's going to bring you, kind of working across? I guess that's kind of around about half the county at that point.
3/5 of the county. So we've only just moved into Southern Vale, so we just started offering it as agency service there, and it's slightly different because we're not acting as the council, we're acting as the home improvement agency, so it's a very different relationship. But we're able to bring some of the things that we've learned from running our service into Southern Vale, and we're gradually bringing those in as well. So we've applied for gas safe funding in Southern Vale this year as well, and it managed to get them some CO detectors and things like that, and all the innovations that we've brought in around mobile working and everything, those are being brought into Southern Vale.
So what's on your kind of hit list for future innovations? Have you got anything you can share with us that you're working on for next year?
Well, we've just brought in the portal, so that's on the Foundation's case manager system. So So we'll be embedding that, and that's for all our partner organisations that refer into the service. So historically, they've been sending in either emails or phoning into the service to send in referrals, but now we've got an online portal, so our partner organisations can log on to that and submit referrals and any photographs or documentation that they want, and that immediately populates our case manager system, so we can pick it up and start working on it immediately. So just embedding that at the moment.
Great. Well, congratulations, Becky, on another award. Do you have a trophy cabinet in the office now? Do you have a...
We did have a trophy
Okay.
cabinet, but then we've moved out of our office,
Okay.
council office building. So yeah, it's been moved. So we're going to have to set up a new one.
Okay, to get a new trophy cabinet. Well, thanks, Becky, and congratulations again to you and the team in Oxford for being
Thank you.
DFG Service of the Year.
And well done to everybody else as well, because it's all
Absolutely.
brilliant, everything everybody does.
Yeah, I think, this year's, I kind of said to the awards last week, the judges really did find it difficult to decide who was going to win which award, I think, more so than many of the years in the past. Which leads us to the final award of the year, of the year and of the week, which was the Home Improvement Agency of the Year. That went to Wolverhampton Homes. Joining us this afternoon, we've got Lisa Morgan, who's the manager at the Home Improvement Agency at Wolverhampton Homes. So congratulations, Lisa.
Thank you.
You beat two previous winners and kind of relatively young agency. So kind of for those that aren't aware of kind of Wolverhampton's HIA, can you give us kind of a potted history of where it came from and how long you've been going?
We are really new in comparison to some of the other HIAs, especially the other nominees. We came into existence in 2020 when 4 very separate sections transferred out of the council and into our ALMO. We had the adoption service, the healthy homes, the affordable warmth and the telecare service. So in 2020, I was employed mid-COVID and tasked with creating a home improvement agency. So we smushed the 4 departments together, and we were very lucky because we were supported by our members to put a lot of resources in with the staffing to address what we envisage was the caseload, because trying to get some definitive numbers was difficult. We also at the time made a decision to address all of our backlog cases in parallel at the same time. So we've seen a significant increase in our workload and caseloads and finances that have gone through. So I've taken the task of trying to merge all of the contacts that we had in those 4 separate sections and try and evolve and create and work with our partners, work with our local GPs and health and social services and the third sector to try and establish better communication, better links, better relationships for the benefit of all of the customers across the board, not just the ones that touch us, but also upskilling a lot of our colleagues so that they knew how to refer into the process or how we could refer into other support mechanisms as well. And we're still growing, we're still learning, we're still developing because it's a new service. I think over the next coming years, we'll be tasked with reducing our output to try and fit in with the allocated budgets. Now we've exceeded the spends.
So I think you kind of went from underspending to now, sounds like you've spent all your budget and kind of had waiting lists in the past. Have you can mostly eliminated those now, so you kind of seeing people. Yeah.
We've eliminated, so our backlog of cases was anything that we deemed was pre-2020, April 2021, sorry. So anything April 2021, pre that was deemed as a backlog case. And we were seeing people that had been waiting years. So we have now seen everybody. I think it was in excess of 2,000 customers that were sitting on that list. So we have caught up and seen everybody, and I think we've got about 50 now that are outstanding, that because planning permission in our area will take 3 months. So we're now just waiting for that to go through the process. Our current wait time is about 3 months, I would say, for our specialist support workers to address our newly referred customers. But we've seen a steady increase and a continued increase as well in referrals that we receive into the service.
So what do you think you're most proud of kind of what you've achieved over the last few years and kind of the changes that you've seen?
We've got unexperienced staff from very different backgrounds who have all gelled together to be, phenomenal. The specialist support workers especially have the very difficult job of making that first contact and supporting the customer all the way through the process and hand-holding them, which has seen a significant drop-off in people who would withdraw themselves and not go through the entire process. So I think that's been a phenomenal task to try and gel everybody together and upskill and train people.
Yeah, and what's been the reaction of the team and kind of the people around Wolverhampton since you got back last Tuesday?
Oh, thrilled, absolutely. I think it's finally given the team a bit of a boost in confidence to know that they are doing the right thing. People understand what they're trying to do. So I think it's had a really positive impact on the team and their confidence, and just validated what we knew was a good service. I think it's just validated that for everyone.
And what have you got planned for 2024? Any new innovations or any things that you're kind of working on that might see you up for the award again next year?
We'd like to have more of a focus on children's cases. The children's ones that are coming through are extremely complex. They're extremely difficult cases. We want to continue with some more innovative adaptations. We've already installed wet-fed solar-powered heating systems for people who were unsure about funding heating, being able to physically heat their extensions. We've done some very creative things with assistive technology for the children's adaptations. We're seeing and working with partners and contractors on how we can continue to fast-track different elements through so that people can get some very quick things in as soon as possible. So yes, we'd like to continue and grow and deliver on our technical side as well, and give them the freedom to be more innovative and upskill them as much as we possibly can to be as creative as we can within our limited budgets.
Okay, cool. Well, we have got a summit or a conference next June in Birmingham around children's adaptation. So if you've cracked any by then, it'd be good to kind of feature those. But congratulations, Lisa, to you and the whole team on being Home Improvement Agency here after, well, I suppose just after 3 years, actually, isn't it? So quite an amazing achievement. So congratulations to you and everybody at Wolverhampton.
Thank you.
So that was all our a selection of our winners from last week. I hope you all found that useful and interesting to get some feedback. On the website, we will have short summaries of all the winners and all the commended entries. So if you're interested in how all that went together and what different people are doing across the country, then yeah, look on the website. I guess probably early in the new year we'll have all the details up. Thank you to all our winners for joining us today and feeding back on what they did and what they've done since, and what they'll be doing in the future. Congratulations to all of you on your victories. We will be doing more webinars. We're going to do them a little bit differently in the new year. And we want to do a couple of tests either just before Christmas or just after. So if anybody who's listening would be interested in taking part in a couple of trial events where we kind of test out the new technology we're going to use, perhaps you'd like to practice your public speaking skills and in a webinar forum, then please do get in touch, and we'll be setting up a couple of trial webinars either just before or just after Christmas.